Okay, now for the fun part. And take this off. I have some extra 7mm bushings on here just for spacers, but I need to get my bushings for the pen we're working on out of the bag, and I'm going to take off 3 or 4 of those in case I need them. Set them down here. So now I put the bushing on and the pen blank on and the bushing on like that, and then just simply because I have extras here, I'm going to do it again and turn 2 of these if I have room. Yeah, I should. I need to get rid of, ouch, one of these bushings. That'll be good. Okay, so now for the fun part, turning this. So what we're gonna do is get that set up like that, and this is tucked into the tailstock. Well, it was, but it'll go in there and drive like that, no problem. Then we're gonna bring this up and then just gently tighten it like that. So now we get a little different tool rest, just so it's a little bit easier to use. Man, that's like that. We need to get that lined up, and we need to have it so our tool's on center of the pen blank. So when we're cutting, probably be a little bit lower like that. And then we're going to get our simple gouge, and like I said, I want this to be cutting on center. So as I hold it like that, and then as this turns, I'm going to cut right there. You see, just off the tip, I'm going to cut, and I'm going to go as fast as I feel safe doing, but that's really, really small. But you can see the way we're cutting here. And an important thing to start and note is I'm starting on the end and working out like this. I'm doing this for demonstration purposes. This is clearly way too slow. But you can just see where I'm cutting, and I can go this direction as well. But you just cut right on the tip there. So the idea is anchor, rub the bevel, and then lift it up and start your cut. That's ABC. Anchor, rub, cut. So anchor, rub, cut. ABC. And then you see I caught that and the pen blank spun. So that's kind of a safety thing too. If the pen blank gets caught and spins, see, and then that was a big chunk that came off. So that's what I'm trying to avoid by going down here to the end. So there we go. Now we're going to just round these all out. I was at 500 RPMs. I can safely bring it up to a couple of thousand. Then you can still hear, that's round, that's not. So the first step of the process is to get them all nice and round. And I'm stopping for demonstration, but I want to get it all nice and round. And this one's almost round, this one's not even close yet. But when you're turning, the speed you turn at is all relative to the size of the piece you have. So with this being a 1/2 inch in diameter, if it was an inch in diameter and round, it would be pi times diameter. So it'd be basically 3 inches of surface area we were cutting with each rotation. Whereas if you had a 10-inch bowl, each rotation would be 30 inches of wood spinning against your gouge. And so you want to keep it in kind of a safe range. So this one I can turn at like 2,000 RPMs nice and safely, but a 10-inch bowl I'd want to turn it like 1/10 as fast, like 200 RPMs, but still you can turn a big bowl up to 500 or 600 RPMs, and these things up to 3,000 RPMs, which our lathes max out at 2,500, 3,000 RPM anyway. So just cut as fast as you safely feel like you can cut. That's kind of a good way to determine it. You know, some pro turners turn stuff super fast, and the faster you turn it, the better and cleaner cut you're going to get, but it's also the more skill you're going to need, because if this is turning really, really fast and you start going across it, you can cut a lot of material off really fast, or if you don't intend to cut that much or you make a gouge or something, it'll be a lot bigger than if you're going a little bit slower. So just judge kind of what you feel safe with and how well the cuts are is really a good way to determine speed. But on a pen, anything between 1,000 RPMs and 2,000 RPMs is just fine. Alright, so now let's talk about the design. I've got 2 pens out here. I'm going to do one which is going to be just very round with a little taper on each end where it connects to the pen, and the other one I'm going to do kind of an arrow shape where it's a little larger here and it arrows right down in a nice smooth, and then this part of it will kind of arrow back. One thing about turning these pens is don't be afraid to make them smaller than you think. If they're way too big, they just feel too big and they don't look that good. So you can turn them right down flat to the bushings and the pen will look really good too. Okay, we're redoing this cut. The camera was completely blurry, so we are going to get ready and we are going to turn these blanks down. If you look studiously, you'll notice they're a little bit different looking than the ones I previously had. But anyway, we are using a very simple spindle gouge, and this is a spindle gouge because of the design on it. The grind is basically straight across. It's nice and sharp. This one's 3/4 inches from here to here. It's got a tang in here. It's not completely round. If it was completely round, it would be a bowl gouge. So once again, the rule is a spindle gouge you can use spindle turning, a bowl gouge you can use for bowls and spindle turning. But we're just doing spindle turning. We are going to start right here and just cut this off. We're going to cut right here on the very tip of the tool. We're going to anchor it. We are going to rub the bevel where it goes thug, 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 thug. And then we're going to turn it and start cutting. And we'll start right here and we'll shave off little bits of pieces, kind of going downhill each stroke, so we're not petting the cat backwards, so to speak. If we start right here, we can go that way too. It'll be downhill as well, because the grains are like straws in there. They just like this, and so we're going to cut them off like this and then turn around and cut them off like that. We'll start with the medium speed. You can go up to 3,000 RPMs with something this tiny. We'll go about 1,000. Well, that's 1,800. Yeah, that'll work. Anchor, bevel, cut and then just come down. Important safety tip. Do not turn with jewelry on. So one thing, I have a relationship. I tell my wife if I don't have my ring on, it's out in the garage. And she'll go out in the garage and get it for me, which is just fine. But I don't have any jewelry or any long hair or anything around here. And I want to just cut these down. Just nice and careful. You can also rub the tool like that, and that tells you that we're still not round yet. You can also hear a little bit sound of it, thunk, thunk, thunk. But right here, when I was turning, it quieted right down, so I could clearly tell I was getting round. And then on this one, this is going to be the tip. And if I looked and saw if the grain was any different or special, I could reorient how I cut it or what I thought. And this will always be the tip. I don't know why I always go that way. But I'm going to have a little bit of an indent right here, and then this one's going to be basically just round, a nice barrel, the whole thing. One thing I should do now is choke up on the bat, so to speak. Bring the tool rest in, and once again I want the tool going right on center. I could make it a tiny bit higher. And then you want to keep this gap as small as possible. You don't want the tool to be able to get in there and catch. And then the idea is to get right down there as close to the metal as possible, but not spin the metal off, not cut the metal off, because this will cut the metal off. And then leave a little bit of room for sanding, and if you're doing a super glue finish, you could leave a little bit of room for the super glue finish. But that's the whole idea with this pen, is I already, just as quick as I could, almost finished that part. And you'll even see how I've got it there. I'm cutting just on this nice sheer edge. I can bring my tool in. Cut more on the tip of it. Yeah, I just feel like that's too high. Another thing to talk about is sharpening your tools. You will need to learn to sharpen your tools. You will also need to learn to recognize when your tools are dull. This one is getting dull. It's not cutting as sharp as I want. Like that end of the tool was sharper. Alright, I'm standing out of position and this is a little bit dull. That's why the cuts look terrible. But I should be able to put the tool in my hip and just do a nice, just zzz, right across like that, zzz, right across like that. So I'm going to pause here and go sharpen, and then we'll come back. Alright, that was super quick. And you see how I just snuck right up on that? I almost got it. Oh, and I got that end. Alright, on that one I am pretty much done, and you could see how I was just doing really tiny little cuts on it, just wispy sandpaper. So what I do there is I lock my finger underneath the tool and slide the tool along the rest, and then the wood should just come away as I need to. A little bit big right here, but other than that I like it. Awesome. Now we're going to show you how to cheat just a tiny bit. There's a little bit of a bump and a ridge right there. So just bring in your skew and use it as a scraper. Look how fine that is. And scraper always has to be downhill, so I raised this up. That's awesome. There's a tiny bump right there. Another thing when you're turning, your fingers can really feel whether it's smooth and whether it's nice, or whether you need to do something about it. There you go, like a quarterback calling a play. I just ground that all down. And then that's also really a cool mark in the wood right there. Glad that's on that end. So now we just sand it up. And I have the other video that sands it up. Go through all of the grits. This is what they call Abranet. 180, 240, 320, 400, 500. Bam, we'll be done.